Hey y'all, just a little disclaimer. Through the Darkest of Times was purchased on Steam for $15. I wasn't provided with a review copy. The title was developed by Paint Bucket Games and produced by Handy Games, which is currently a subsidiary of THQ Nordic. So, there you go. You have now been disclaimed. Some people hate it when political discourse overlaps with video game discourse, but those people aren't me. So fuck it. We're getting political on Through the Darkest of Times. A game about building a resistance force consisting of people from different political ideologies and backgrounds as you fight against the rise of the Nazis and their authoritarian state. Not sure how you're not supposed to get political about that, but I'm sure someone will still complain about it in the comments. I'll be waiting. Watching the decline of American democracy is exhausting. Ever since the orange tyrant Donald Trump wormed his way into the Oval Office after the 2016 presidential election, bad news has permeated our lives on a daily basis. Whether it's refugees being locked in cages, Trump's popularity among white nationalists, i.e. the KKK, neo-Nazis, and the alt-right, or the fascistic Senate acquitting a clearly guilty impeached president, our democratic institutions are bleeding out, suffering the cumulative death of 1,000 cuts via the moral and ethical corruption inherent to the Trump regime and Republican ideology. As a result, American democracy has decayed at a catastrophic rate, while we, the same people, wonder how we can combat such an overwhelmingly hateful movement that has infiltrated every facet of our lives. Indeed, how do we fight such evil, stupidity, and, as far as Donald Trump and Boris Johnson are concerned, bad hair? The newly released video game Through the Darkest of Times contains an answer. Resist in whatever way you can. In this good story-based strategy game by developer Paint Bucket Games, the player controls a German citizen during Adolf Hitler's rise to power. As the Nazis spread their evil throughout the region and the world, the player's randomized character leads a German resistance. The player's responsibility is to recruit allies, gain followers, collect donations, and take action against the evil Nazi government while avoiding detection. The game is as intense, depressing, and riveting as it sounds. Building a resistance from scratch isn't easy. As Germany's democratic institutions crumble beneath Hitler's authoritarian heel, players must approach their managerial duty as head of a rebel group with great care. Every potential ally has their own various strengths, weaknesses, and political factions. Whether they be Catholic conservatives, liberals, democratic socialists, or communists, the player's fellow resistors need to cooperate despite embodying different ideologies. Characters with polar viewpoints fight regularly to the point that some party members forget the big must unite to fight the Nazis picture and leave the group. These volatile scenarios must be treated with a deft hand in order to ensure the group's survival. Maintaining a party with diverse backgrounds is the key to success in Through the Darkest of Times. Missions often require party members with specific attributes. For example, a communist is better equipped to appeal to a union of workers than an anarchist, and a Christian liberal can raise donations at a wedding better than a socialist. While recruiting members from a variety of different backgrounds can raise the tension, being able to manage these randomized characters adds to the game's good strategy elements. Of course, your recruits need to do more than just raise money, increase supporters, and sell Girl Scout cookies. Seeing as this is Nazi Germany, some missions are more perilous. Whether it's hiding people, sending information to foreign powers, or stealing weapons and equipment from the German army, there are an abundance of missions to choose from. These missions, however, contain a higher risk of being seen by suspicious folks or the police. If a character receives too much heat, they will be arrested by the Gestapo, aka the government police that view themselves as above the law, like ICE and the Border Patrol. This adds an undercurrent of suspense too Through the Darkest of Times. Even though the gameplay is simplistic and controlled via the click of a mouse, Through the Darkest of Times requires the player to contemplate every decision they make. Despite how it's morally imperative to help the Jews and defeat the Nazis, there simply isn't enough time or resources to be able to accomplish every mission. After all, the Nazis are evil and tenacious, infecting their evil across every sliver of society, and there's only so much the player and their ragtag crew can do without getting caught. In this regard, Through the Darkest of Times is a fittingly agonizing experience in the best way, and highlights the title's strong strategy elements. The tense gameplay complements the somber story. Conveyed through still images in a Schindler's List style black and white, Through the Darkest of Times grounds the player in this horrific yet depressingly relatable world through its narrative. Through the eyes of the protagonist, protagonist, we witness key historical events like the burning of the Reichstag, the 1936 Olympics, and wartime Germany. In these cutscenes, the player chooses some options that allows them to interact and have some control over the sequence of events, but whatever the player decides, the game hammers home that the normalization of evil incarnate and human cruelty isn't normal. These scenes are the best part of the game, even though they are very depressing. They are important for remembering the human cost that the Nazis inflicted across the world. Admittedly, Through the Darkest of Times is an imperfect experience. Some of the strategy elements are confusing. Many missions require specific items in order to access them, but this is a problem due to how Through the Darkest of Times doesn't explicitly state how to retrieve the objects necessary to the mission. The title can be incredibly frustrating, and the English mistranslations, after all, Paint Bucket Games are a German development team, only hamper the game further. I once avoided buying paper because the text label on the mission said buy paint. I can't fight fascists with paint! It isn't a milkshake! The poor replay value is another issue. Through the Darkest of Times contains two ways to play the game, story mode and resistance mode. The story mode is essentially an easy mode that allows the player to focus on the story, and resistance mode enhances the difficulty to where party members are more likely to leave the resistance group and missions can't be accomplished without gaining some heat. This, however, leads to the problem of replayability. While having more difficulty modes is always a good thing, yes, even in the case of Dark Souls, Through the Darkest of Times carries so many lengthy cutscenes that it breaks up the flow of gameplay, and even though the story is great, the narrative surprises only shocked me the first time around. On my second playthrough, I just wanted to get back to building my resistance, never mind how good the story is. And just let me be clear, the story is very good and very moving. With that said, Through the Darkest of Times is a damn good anti-fascist strategy game. Even though the title stumbles a bit in terms of its slapdash menu system and replay value, Through the Darkest of Times weaves a sad tale of a world that has gone cruel, and how we must fight back no matter the cost. In this regard, Through the Darkest of Times hits incredibly close to home. As fascism spreads across America and the world, our actions, no matter how small, matter. And like Nazi Germany, the world will one day look back at this pivotal turning point of history and judge us. Will we allow this fascist infection to spread, or will we resist to our final breath? The choice is ours. Hey y'all, thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, and leave a comment. And for my high-tier patrons, Slasher of Veils, Mom, and Miles Nelson, I just want to give you a very special thank you for supporting for what I do. So thank you. Thank you so much.